Hello, my friend. Okay, I am finally getting to this video where I'm going to lay out a few of my favorite beginner-friendly classics. So you can get into them. These are in no particular order, but we'll start with these. Okay, I would be remiss if I did not start with The Hobbit. I was read this when I was a child. My parents read this to me and my brother growing up, and I've just been in love with the story ever since. You might have seen the movie, but if you have not read this, it's a really beautifully written fantasy that just pulls you in. It's been a long time since I've read this, and now that I'm holding it again, I kind of want to read it again. This is a book that you will want to read over and over and over again. And I forget who said this. It was either Tolkien or Lewis. Something to the effect that children's books, how he loved to read children's books. And if a children's book isn't enjoyable to be read as an adult, then it shouldn't be read to children. So I think the sentiment is that a good story is a good story for both children and adults. So I would start on this one. I know I said these are in no particular order, but I would definitely read this sooner than later. Okay, my next book is Rebecca. So by Daphne du Maurier. I read this a few years ago, and apparently this is one of the first kind of suspense novels. Supposedly she started the whole suspense genre. So it's like a romantic suspense. And I absolutely loved this book. And I don't know how she did it, but in my opinion, it manages to be both a slow burn and a page turner at the same time. And when was this written? 1938. So fantastic book. And they also made this into a movie. Read the book first. I think the movie came out a year or two after I read this, which I didn't know they were making a movie into it, but the book is always better. So yes, this one, it's mysterious. It really has everything. It's got a little mystery, a little romance, in a big house in England. So you can't go wrong. Okay, next book. And yeah, these are pretty much all English authors for good reason. So next would be Agatha Christie's Mysterious Affair at Styles. And I believe this was her first book, and it became a huge success. And from what I understand, I heard a recording of Agatha Christie talking about this, but apparently she started writing because her sister was trying to be a writer, and she gave her, I don't know if she was being sisterly and being a bit of a jerk, and something to the effect of like, you can't write, or I bet you can't do this, kind of challenging her, not thinking that she was actually going to do anything. But Agatha never went to school, from what I understand. Like, she didn't have an education, and so I think she set out to prove her sister wrong, and boy did she. This became a huge success, and then that launched her career. But I would say this, this is a classic in my opinion. It was written in, let's see, 1938. Yeah, 1938. So again, not 1800s, which is my personal favorite time frame for novels, but also you just can't go wrong with Agatha. And I love that her books, this is before the time of CSI and crazy forensic evidence and everything. And so her mysteries are based in character and deductive logic and reasoning. So it's a feast for your mind. Highly recommend it. Okay, this one I have not read in a long time, but I just remember loving it. And it's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it's kind of one of those gothic horror, but it's not horror in our modern sense. It's more psychological horror of what happens when, someone decides to experiment with their baser instincts and their evil side and just, let it run wild. Really phenomenal. And again, not a difficult read. Really enjoyable, and it'll kind of mess with your mind in a little bit, but in the best way. Okay, next is Jane Eyre. It's been a while since I've read this as well, but I loved Jane Eyre. This is also a slow burn, so you've got to give it time. And that's kind of the thing with the Bronte sisters, is that their novels, in my opinion, they're well written, but they're very slow going. And Jane Eyre, it's got mystery and romance and, misunderstandings. It's also kind of Pride and Prejudice-y also. And so this one's a thicker book, but I absolutely loved it. I would put this in my list of favorite books, but I think you have to be in the mood for it. So just know that it's going to be a bit of a longer read, but it's not difficult. You kind of have to get into the mindset for it. But also it's just delightful. It's just so delightful. The other book that I will say I think is a good beginner-friendly classic, and I could not find my copy. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is Pride and Prejudice. So I would be remiss if I did not include Pride and Prejudice on that list. I love Jane Austen, and that one is just a classic. Again, it's not difficult to read at all. You've either probably seen the movie or seen, multiple renditions of the movie, but just another truly delightful novel that's not difficult to get into, and I think you'll like it. I think you'll really love it. Okay, the last one that I have on my list so far, I could keep going, but I didn't want to make this like an hour-long video, is Dracula. So I was just floored at how much I enjoyed this book. I tried getting into it in high school and I just couldn't for some reason. I found it boring. But I love the style. It's written in letter forms. So the story is told through letters that the characters are either writing to each other or their journal entries. So it's a really cool format. And the overall story, again, this is, a Gothic novel. And it gives you a different perspective on, the whole vampire persona. But again, it's not our modern understanding of vampire. Like we have romanticized the vampire when in reality it is a very evil creature. And so Stoker, who is Irish, by the way, the way that he describes Dracula, which is interesting because it's the namesake of the book, but Dracula as the character is more in the periphery, and the main story is focused on, a group of human beings and how they are coming together to fight against this evil. And so yes, there's romance in it. There's so much courage of like coming together to fight just pure evil. and watching good win over evil. So I would say, again, really easy prose. Just remember, you know, written in the 1800s, late 1800s, but it just delightful, just such a good story. You end the book and you just feel like you just conquered something really difficult. Like you were the one that killed Dracula. Such a good book. So I, again, could keep going, but those are just a handful. Actually, maybe a bonus. Okay, bonus would be The Scarlet Letter. This, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, an American author. I read this in high school, and it's such a tragic but beautiful story of redemption and also prejudice. You know, during that time, it's like women, you stepped one tiny foot out of line and you were just marred for life if you made a mistake. It's just, again, a beautiful story of just redemption and grace, but also really well written. So I'm gonna read this again, and that's why this is, you know, a newer copy. So yes, such a phenomenal book. And that's kind of it. That's it for now. I could go on and on about so many books that I love, and I can make you another video about maybe going into a bit more in depth on why I loved this book, what I thought about it, on Wuthering Heights, a bunch of other books. So hopefully this gives you a good starting point. You cannot go wrong with like any of these books. Like if I had to pick one to start with, like I mentioned, read The Hobbit, and then I would read either Agatha Christie or Rebecca, and then the rest, you know, pick and choose. But I would start there. Hope you enjoy.